Can you guess what this picture is? This is a zoom in of a plant leaf. Because in this video, we're going to be talking some more about plants, specifically the xylem. So hopefully you know nothing about the xylem because this video will explain that for you. So right here, we have a famous football player. Maybe you know him, maybe you don't. It doesn't matter. We know all humans, just like this football player, sweat, especially when we do exercise, even when we don't. But we sweat to get rid of the heat in our body, to cool us down. But sometimes when we sweat, it's good because we can keep away some people if we smell real bad. But also, apparently, even plants can sweat. Maybe you didn't know that, but it's kind of annoying because scientists gave the name for plant sweating a different name than the ones of human sweating. Because we know that when humans sweat, we call it sweating, the loss of water from the skin. But when plants sweat, for some reason, they gave it a different name, transpiration. So this is annoying, but just know that transpiration is just a fancy name for sweating in plants, okay? So let's get into some more detail. Right here, we have a nice picture of a plant, okay? Right here at the bottom, let's fill it in. So at the bottom here, we have the roots, right? It's under the soil. So this right here is the line, like this is the soil below the ground. So here we have the roots. Here we have the leaf. Here we have the stem. So a lot of people don't clearly know the function of the stem, so I'm just going to quickly go over this. The stem is this pipe in the middle, the whole big pipe. It provides structure, okay? Because it's like humans not having bones. If humans did not have bones, we would be like a sack of potatoes, a pancake. We would have no stability. That's the same for a plant. If a plant has a stem, it can stand up straight and strong, okay? It's for structure. It's the bones of the plant. Okay. Now, before I explain these, I'm going to explain these in a story fashion, okay? So we know when humans drink water, we put it in a cup and we just drink right out of the cup into our mouths, and it goes into our digestive system, and our digestive system will absorb it into our bloodstream. These pipes, our vessels, right? Our vessels will carry this water around in our blood to our cells, so our cells can use it and we can survive, right? How does a plant do it? So a plant gets its water from the soil. That's why if you take a plant out of the soil, it's gonna die, because its water is under its water and soil and nutrients that it needs is under in the soil, okay? So you better keep it where it belongs. Now, step one, water is absorbed from the soil along with some nutrients. So the nutrients are dissolved in the water. And we're going to talk about exactly what nutrients and all those kinds of things in another video and why it matters. But for now, just know the water is absorbed from the roots into the roots, okay? So we have insane amounts of branching. There's a lot of branching. Here I only showed a couple, but real roots have a lot of branching, and it's to be able to take up as much water as possible, as efficiently as possible. Next step, the water will go from the root into something called the xylem. So you noticed there's this dark pipe that I put in the stem. So the stem, inside the stem, there are some pipes. One of the pipes is called the xylem, this one that I drew here. It is responsible for, just like the blood vessels in the human body, the xylem is like the blood vessels of a plant. It's going to carry now all of this water from the root up to the rest of the plant to supply the rest of the plant with fresh water, okay? So that's the xylem. It's pretty much the vessel of a plant, the pipe of the plant, carrying everything around, okay, from the root up. So step 3 is the water is transported in the xylem upwards against gravity, okay? Very important, because normally things don't go against gravity naturally, so there must be a special process, and I'll talk about this process in this video. So it's transported against gravity up to the leaves. Now here in step 4, the xylem has some small holes in them, okay? This allows some water to leave the xylem, okay? And this water that leaves can now go to cells so that cells can use them for survival, okay? To be healthy. Step 5 is the water that remained in the xylem that didn't leave for cells will now accumulate somewhere and travel to step 6. And this step 6 is where the stoma is, okay? So all the remaining water that didn't go to cells are in these empty spaces, so the xylem and other empty spaces. And from these empty spaces, the water will travel out of something called the stoma, okay? Let me clarify this. So when humans sweat, our sweat leaves through our sweat glands on our skin. So this is essentially the sweat gland of a plant, okay? This is where the water that wasn't used by cells will now exit, okay? Through the stoma. So stoma is the singular form of this structure. So if you see stomata, that means there are multiple of these. So one stoma, many stomata. Okay, it's the same meaning though. Bear in mind, you cannot see a stoma by your eyes. You need to magnify it a lot. Not necessarily with a magnifying glass, but with a microscope or something like that. That's the same with your glands. You need to zoom in a lot. You can't just see them with your eye. Okay? So you see it traveled all the way from the roots up to the leaves, and then finally the remaining water got sweated out or transpired, by this fancy name, transpired out of the stoma or stomata. Okay? By the way, last word here, vascular bundle. As I said before, in the stem, we have some pipes. One of them is the xylem, the one we're talking about now. There are some other pipes, for example, the phloem. Okay? These pipes all comprise the vascular bundle. The vascular bundle just means pipes of the stem. Okay? So all the vascular bundle is all the pipes inside the plant, including the xylem and the phloem. Okay? So that's all it means. Now, how exactly, this is very important because this is where all your exam questions will come from. How exactly does water travel against gravity? By the way, we're going to talk about this right now. Next. So here is the word summary of what I just talked about here in each step, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay? Just in case you wanted to see it and practice it. I missed something here. Into the air. Okay? Yeah, so the water leaves out of the stomata into the surrounding air, just like our sweat leaves from our body into the air. Okay, this is now what everyone finds very complicated, but it's really not, so bear with me and let's get to it. Cohesion tension theory. This theory is a theory that describes why water or how water moves up the xylem against gravity. Okay, that's all that this means. To explain this, and I put step 3 here to show what we're explaining. To explain this, we're going to use a real-life situation of straws, okay? After you understand this real-life situation, it works the exact same in plants, okay? So we'll refer back to how it works in plants. These are some crazy-looking straws, though. Have you ever tried these? Now, say you're real freaking thirsty, man, and you need to drink water. So you go to this pool, because that's all there is, okay? And you don't care if there's pee inside. As long as there's water, you're drinking it. So you're putting your straw inside this pool, okay? And you're going to drink it. But did you notice? To be able to bring the water from the pool into your mouth, you need to bring it against gravity. Just like what's happening here. The water is traveling up the xylem against gravity. So initially, when you put your straw in your straw, what is there? Air, just air. What's in the pool? Water, just water, right? But when you start drinking, okay, you're going to start sucking from the top of the straw. What's going to happen is you're going to remove all the air. All the air is going to travel out, right, into your lungs, right? Now, all the air has been removed and there's no air left in the straw, right? So now, if there's no air left to remove and you keep sucking, what are you going to pull on? You're going to pull on the water, right? Because there's no air left. So you're going to pull on the water because you're going to create force that's going to try and pull the water out since there's nothing else to remove, right? But besides that, what else are you going to pull on? You're going to pull on the straw. So you're going to cause the straw to want to crumble, right? It's like taking a bottle, a full of air bottle, and you start sucking out all the air. Eventually, it's going to crumble. After you remove all the air, you're going to start pulling on the bottle itself, causing it to crumble and compress like this, right? So that's the same thing with the straw. After you removed all the air, you're going to create some tension that's going to pull the straw inwards. But if your straw is strong enough, so it's like plastic or something like that, then it's fine. Then this tension that you're creating, or this pulling, will not make the straw break, okay? So it will be fine. It will just be stable, and then water will come up, okay? Water will travel up. Okay? Now, so what you're doing, a key word you need to know, and everyone hates this word, so I'm going to explain this and make it clear. After you've removed the air, you create a vacuum. There's no air left. There's nothing. This creates negative pressure. To be able to understand negative pressure, you need to understand positive pressure. Take a bottle, an empty one, so it doesn't have water in, and blow into it. When you blow into it, what you're doing is you're putting in so much air that the air is compressing, wait a second, compressing the bottle and pushing it outwards, right? It's trying to make the bottle pop, right? That is positive pressure. So when you're blowing in so much air, it's pushing the bottle, trying to make it expand. That's positive pressure. So by that logic then, when you're sucking out air, you're doing the opposite thing. So you're making an empty space. This is called negative pressure. So positive pressure when you're blowing a bottle up, negative pressure when you're removing everything instead of putting stuff in. Okay? So when you suck out the air, you're creating negative pressure. This negative pressure means there's nothing in here, no air. And so water is the only thing you're going to bring up. Okay? So water eventually moves up all the way until it reaches your mouth, and then it exits the straw into your mouth. Okay? So my next question is, why is water able to move up in a continuous stream? Why doesn't it move up bit by bit, like a little bit of water and then a little bit of water and then a little bit of water? Why does it move up in a continuous stream? It's able to do that because of two properties of water called cohesion and adhesion. Cohesion is the property of water that allows water to bind to each other. Okay, cohesion. Co means to each other. Adhesion means to stick to. So cohesion, sticking to each other. So that's hydrogen bonding. You've learned about this in another chapter. So hydrogen bonding allows water molecules to stick to each other so that when you bring up one water molecule, the next one will stick to that water molecule, and so it will come up as well. And then the next one will stick to that water molecule. You see what I mean? So that way they will all come up instead of just some water. Now the next one is adhesion. Water has an attraction not only between each other, but also from the water to the straw itself. So due to this attraction, it means that the water molecule can travel up and stick to the side of the thing and not just fall back down. That's like trying to climb up a slide in a park. You try and climb up from the bottom with like oil hands. You can't grip to it, right? So you're going to slide down. That's the same thing. If water didn't have grip with the side, it will just slide back down. So both of these properties, cohesion and adhesion, allows water to be sucked up, okay, into the negative pressure. So that's it. That's all that the cohesion tension theory is. And we can see where the name comes from. Cohesion, due to the water property, this allows water to come up in a continuous stream. And tension is a synonym for negative pressure. When you remove the air, you create tension or negative pressure. It's the same thing. It's the same name. So I hope this makes sense, okay? Because a lot of teachers sometimes neglect explaining this because it's a physics thing, okay? But this is what you need to know for understanding this theory. Now let's relate it back to plants. This will be quick. Because if you understand this next part is easy. So here we have the water. I made a very simplified diagram, okay? Because the real diagram is water, xylem, fancy plant, and then eventually stoma, okay? I'm just skipping it and showing the important part. So we got the root that absorbs the water, transfers into the xylem, okay, against gravity, and eventually leaves through the stoma. So the stoma here kind of represents the end of the straw, okay? So real quick recap, because it's basically the same thing. So we know initially, maybe, there was air inside the xylem. It gets removed. It gets removed out of the stoma, right? This creates negative pressure, right? Opposite of blowing into it, you're sucking out of it, negative pressure. This causes tension on the xylem itself, as we mentioned. Remember, tension and tension to bring water in, right? You're sucking now on the water. This allows water to get brought up. If your xylem is strong enough, it will not collapse. Xylems are strong enough and they don't collapse because of something called lignin. So lignin makes up the walls of the xylem. You need to remember this. So this is a strong component, a sturdy component that allows the xylem not to collapse, even though you're creating this negative pressure, this tension on the xylem. Okay? So water gets pulled up, and eventually it gets pulled up so high that there's no more air. There's only water in the xylem. So the next thing to leave is not air anymore, but water. So now water will leave, and now every time water leaves, this creates a small space for more water to get brought up from the root. Okay, so water leaves, this creates more space. Now more water can get brought up by this cohesion tension theory. Okay, and remember, importantly, water has two properties: cohesion, adhesion, that helps this cohesion tension theory. And so it's a cycle. Water leaves through sweating, more can get brought up. Water leaves, more can get brought up. And this continuous flow that I mentioned of water, rather than bit by bit, is called the transpiration stream. Okay, so the water can create this transpiration stream because of cohesion and adhesion. Okay, these properties of water allow water to be continuous. Okay, like it is in a straw when you suck on a straw. So that is it. That is how water is taken up from the root into the xylem against gravity all the way to the stoma, and it leaves the stoma. In the next video, I will talk about the stoma, what exactly happens in the stoma, what factors affect how water leaves through the stoma, and some other things. So hopefully this video helped a little bit, and stay tuned for what happens next. Oh yeah, here's a paper that summarizes everything I just said in Word format, just in case you wanted to see it.